Today I'm going to show you how to use the new FLO locking chuck and FLO air gauge and how to get the bleed functionality out of it. We've had a lot of questions about that, and first thing we need to talk about is the pressure valve and how it's been designed. So a traditional pressure valve has a valve core here, which has a 5mm diameter, and then the valve itself is actually larger. A lot of them are about 5.9, 6 millimeters or something like that. If you look at a traditional pressed pump, like a locking mechanism like you would see on the FLO mini pump here, this has a 5mm diameter. So when you go over that pressure valve, what happens is it stops right there. And so you can't go further down that pipe. When you lock it out, it locks in, everything's fine, it works perfectly. What we did with the FLO locking chuck was we designed two different size gaskets. So these gaskets are on the inside of the FLO locking chuck. There's a cap right here on the end. If I take this off, if I unthread it, you can see right now that on the inside we have the blue one. This ships standard installed. You'll get another one of these in the bag that comes with the FLO locking chuck. Now, this one is an oversized gasket, and the reason that we did that is that it allows you to basically bottom out the FLO or the valve core, and it allows you to keep it open. When you inflate a tire or a tube or anything like that, if it's tubeless or tube, doesn't matter. What happens is the air pressure from the pump is greater than what's on the inside. This valve closes, and then once it equalizes, it springs back out. So it seals it. It allows it to hold its air pressure. What we did with this was we allow the valve core to go further all the way in until it hits this middle bar. And when it hits that, it allows that valve to stay depressed. So there's a constant airflow in between. It never seals itself. If you look at it from the outside, here's what happens. It closes just like that. So once it's in there and it's closed, you can tighten up the FLO air gauge, and that gasket seals around here, creating a tight seal. So now you have a continuously open space. I have right here one of our FLO wheels, and we have a FLO locking chuck that is set up here, and I'm going to show you how this works. So you could hear the air that's already in the wheel. So what you do is you have this open, the FLO locking chuck is open, and you seat it down. Because there's air in this, you're going to hear some air loss until I close that, until I seal it. So this goes down, you see a bit of air loss, and then I seal that off. Now that is open. If you look at the actual gauge here, which you may not be able to see because of the actual camera focus, but right now we're at just under 40 psi. And just for the sake of this video, I'm going to add the FLO mini pump on here. We'll lock that out. We'll add a bit of psi here so you can see that everything inflates. We'll take that up just to about 42 psi. There we go. And then I'm going to release this FLO mini pump. And what you're going to hear is you're going to hear some air come out, but that's actually line loss that's on this side, because this pressure valve on this end is locked out. This one's not bottomed out. So there's that line loss. And as you take this off, you can still see that on the gauge, we're right around 39 psi. So we're going to bleed this down, and the way you bleed it is by taking this and flicking it with your thumb. So we're going to go right down to about 36 psi for this. So we're going to bleed it down, a couple pumps, and one more, and there we are, set at 36 psi. Now, in order to take this off, the FLO locking chuck has been designed with a sort of a trigger grip to help you remove it. So one finger goes on this side, and the other finger goes on this piece that is extended. Now, as you want to pull that off, you can pull it off in one quick motion. Now, what we've been doing here is, because that gasket is sealing that, because that is still depressed, we do about a quarter turn just to remove some of the pressure, and then it's loose enough for you to be able to pull it off straight in one motion, and there, you've locked 36 psi into that wheel. Now you can close this down and lock everything out. Now, we've had a lot of questions too about, does this work with the FLO disc? Luckily, I have a FLO disc right here, which I will pull down, and it does. So this is our 44 mil, which is what you're going to want from a tube, somewhere in that range, 42, 44. The FLO tubeless valves are all 44 millimeters. Now you can see that this goes in over the valve like this, and it will seat. So you can actually bottom it out on this as well. Now the removal on this is slightly different. You take one finger on this side, and then your other hand on the other side comes around and grabs that piece. So you're basically doing this on each side of the disc wheel. And once you have that pressure set, you can just pull it off quickly like that, and you'll have your pressure set. So that is how to use the new FLO locking chuck and FLO air gauge to bleed the pressure down to the exact pressure that you need.